I hope I'm audible enough. I think I am. Okay, I hope all of you are having a great time. If not, please make sure you fake it because this is my first official TED Talk. We've had some extremely insightful and amazing conversations on today's thematic concern, which has been artificial intelligence. And I'm going to keep it in the loop, but from a very different perspective, which is AI and sustainability and a Gen Z's vision for ethical change. The reason I picked this up is because I want you all to understand whether sustainability is an important topic when it comes to artificial intelligence. So let's start with a show of hands. How many of you have actually, been born into some sort of belief system as you grew up? And how many of you believe that there's a right and there's a wrong in the world? Amazing. So most of us are that, right? We've all been born into some level of belief system, believing that ये हमारा सही है, ये हमारा गलत है. And similar was my case. When I was young, sustainability at my home was my mom, who's sitting in the audience, my dad, both of them telling me that light बंद कर दो, मेरा कोई अपना power plant नहीं है. Which means that sustainability for us was that maybe 10 years ago. But now we all know sustainability has changed for us. It's the way we move, the way we talk, the way we innovate, and even the way the big tech is going to be used now. So why not to incorporate sustainability here? So yes, sustainability in the past decade has had a reboot. In the past decade, 10 or maybe decade and a half or more. But the problem is that what do we see? The planet is still dying. What we see is the glaciers are still melting, the oceans are still rising, and the forest is still on fire. And so my question to all of you, or my deep down desire is to make you understand that sustainability begins at home. You need to ask all of yourselves that where am I in it? So let's say, for example, if you decided to go to gym 7 months ago and then you follow up with the KFC as a takeout meal in the dinner, that's not sustainability, guys. Sustainability is when you decide no takeout meal, only protein, and going to the gym. Sustainability is if you decide, yes, I'm not gonna go for the Zara or the Shein order for every time I have an event. Sustainability is when I decide I'm going to consume consciously. Sustainability is when I decide it's okay, I can rewear my mom's wedding jora on my own. Sustainability is conscious decision making. And sustainability, like charity, begins at home. So then the question is, the irony I must say, that the planet is still dying. So what's wrong there? And the question, the more important question that you all need to ask is, do you want to die before the planet, or do you want the planet to die with you? Knowing the kind of, very realistic, greedy people that we are, we would pick the former. Would we? No, we wouldn't. We'd pick the latter. So when I ask this question, and you can see the animation here, we're all consuming in a way which is not sustainable for us. And this is a question that we all need to think about. We all want to create systems, organizations that have a lasting impact on our generations to come. This is a discussion often we have at home. I have it every other day with my husband, something where I tell that, oh, I want our kids to go to Harvard's Extension School. He tells me that he wants to make sure that they are NBA players. But you know what's one point that we both agree at? We want to make sure that they are being raised, or they would be raised, as consciously, ethically intelligent human beings. And so, moving on, where does AI come in the entire conversation? That was a whole lecture on sustainability. AI comes in, and I'm not going to talk about the big tech, what's the algo like. It comes in when you realize the magic word AI, which has been there for the past 3, 5.5 years, is not enough. What's enough is ethical AI. This dude here, Socrates, which I feel like you all should read 1 or 2 books of his, said the unexamined life is not worth living. And what he really meant was that yes, we have AI now. Yes, every speaker prior to me has told you, oh, this is what we can do with AI. There's so much that we can actually engage in. Energy, agriculture, research. Yes, you can come up with smart precision agriculture. Yes, that's going to take Pakistan up a notch in terms of our food sector. Yes, you can create more energy, renewable energy with zero waste through AI. How cool is that? And we have some amazing, in my own personal experience, climate tech startups in Pakistan. And what I realized throughout the time was that the issue is not that AI is the magical word alone. It is who is the one creating AI and how are they using it. So AI is not just for those four people standing behind Trump in Trump's inaugural speech, the four richest men of the world, and somewhere in there was also the CEO of OpenAI. What does that show? That means that you have to rethink and recalibrate with the way AI is now going to be used in the world. And you need to officially, unofficially, in your own space, like I said before, advocate for ethical AI. I'll also talk about how we're going to do that. But before I talk about that, there's always this, I like to speak in analogies. And recently, I was actually listening to this podcast, and me being the research geek I am, I was listening to this podcast by Stephen Bartlett. He was interviewing this really cool Harvard oncologist. And something that he said was, he was talking about cancer. And he said that cancer is technically a fermentation process, right? Which means that, okay, if all your metabolic, it's a metabolic system, and if you take up too much of glucose, it's gonna ferment into lactic acid, and eventually it would trigger cancer cells. So he said partly the reason is that. And that's a very interesting analogy to look at when we think of AI and climate change or AI and sustainability. Because what I'm trying to say is, if cancer is something that's internal or could be triggered internally, then likewise, AI is something that needs to be broken down, and it's something that we need to look into from a systematic lens and less of an external lens. You have to break down the oligarchic systems. And I don't mean to say in the Luigi Mangione way, guys, please don't go out killing CEOs, but you have to raise your voice against that and make sure the usage is extremely ethical. And so today, here I am only for my Gen Zers and my own self. How do we do that? We do that replicability, scalability, accountability. We need tech for climate resilience, AI powered tech, which is A, replicable, which means that when we're coming from global north to global south, the difference, the bridge needs to be shortened, not widened. So the tech needs to be a lot more replicable, means a lot more digestible. B, we need it to be scalable. I want each one of you sitting here today to be the next Musk. For a lack better word is why I'm citing Musk, not a big fan here. And to do that, you have to make sure your ideas are a lot more scalable than just in the prism of living in Lahore or Pakistan. You have to think of each single indigenous population that your climate tech will affect. And lastly, you have to be accountable. You have to create systems that you can withhold and say proudly that yes, I have created my climate tech startup. Yes, I'm working for a MNC, but this is the transparency with my data, and this is how it's going to be sustainable for my generations and generations to come. And so, with this, I want to end and say that when I say replicability, scalability, and accountability, this is for me accountable for sure, and for each one of you sitting here, because you and me, we are the next generation, and we have to make sure that AI is sustainable. Thank you.